I just want to welcome you all tonight. A couple of notes, in case anybody didn't know this, bathrooms are across the way here. They're open. We will have an intermission about halfway through the program, probably around quarter after 8 or so. There's refreshments in the back. Other than that, I think we're just about ready to start, so I'd like to introduce
What's up? Is this the outfit? It's a release party for the American River Review.
Hi, I'm Craig Martinez.
I'm Michael Spurgeon.
I am the art and media professor that works with these great students to produce this magazine. When the semester started, my main goal in my head was to meet the deadline. Right? Meet the deadline. So we started out writing on the chalkboard, don't be late, work hard, and meet your deadline. Remember that? I got sick of hearing that. But towards the middle of the semester, we were starting to get there was so much pressure, and sometimes we would start to, pick at each other. We changed the slogan to "Love, Don't Hate," and I think it worked. So I'm very proud of the students. We had a lot to put together. It's a thick magazine. I think it's thicker than it's ever been. There's a lot of great work in there. All the contributors have done fantastic work, all the artists and writers. And it's an amazing project to be involved in because there's so many people working together. And it's an honor to be a part of it. So I hope you enjoy it. And I wanted to tell all the students in my class, you guys are great. Thanks for putting up with me.
So I'm Michael Spurgeon. I work in the English department, and I am the faculty advisor to the editorial staff. This is my first semester doing it after many successful years with David Merson. And of the many thank yous I want to give to people, thank you to him comes first. He has really mentored me in this process. Not only is this teaching a class, but there are a lot of other aspects to the project that don't typically fall under faculty responsibilities, and he's been a great help to me in guiding me along. I want to thank my staff for all the work they did. The editorial staff did a great job of sort of helping me transition in, and they were just fantastic all semester long and staying on task and working with the writers. Really excited to finally see the product. A little overwhelmed, frankly. Excited and really honored to be a part of this project. The thing I really want to say at this point is I'm thrilled to see all the artists and writers here tonight to celebrate with us. This is, I've spent a lot of time on this project, but this is really about you and your work, and it's just thrilling to be a part of that process. There are a lot of exciting things about teaching. This class in particular is really special because of how it brings people from across the campus and across the disciplines together to create a work of art that really represents the best of American River College. It's a real pleasure. Thanks. I'm going to have Rachel come back up and present the dedication.
this year's edition. I'm not sure why I'm tearing up. We'd like to dedicate this edition to Betty Nelson. Her contributions to the art and media department, to her amazing contributions to the magazine, and for being so supportive of our students. Hi everyone, my name is Megan Youngbill and I'm the current editor-in-chief of the magazine. That being said, we have some former editor-in-chiefs here that I'd like to recognize. First of all, we have Danny Gordon. Where's Danny? Danny? Brett Kaufman, another former editor-in-chief. And we also have Becky Pruitt. Me coming in as editor-in-chief this semester, I'm just kind of picking up where they left off. So there's a lot of people who contributed to this magazine. Also, the current literary and design staffs of the magazine and former staff members. Please stand up. I'm going to read this year's prologue, and then we're going to jump right into readings. Okay. Oscar Wilde said, "I was working on the proof of one of my poems all the morning and took out a comma. In the afternoon, well, I put it back again." He relates what it means to be a writer and an editor, forever striving for the perfect words, in the perfect order, with the perfect punctuation. The editorial staff at the American River Review knows the complexity of this procedure all too well. As we guide our beloved writers through their own wild revisions, we know not to expect perfection by the first draft, or the second, or maybe even the 4th, 5th, or 16th, but we never tire from the excitement and uncertainty of this process. In fact, we secretly hope for room for improvement and live in fear of as good as it gets. Our writers give our lives purpose, especially when they leave out a comma or two. How could we go on without proofreading pizza parties and hour-long arguments about adverbs? All day, we think about text. When we go to bed, we dream about hyphens and apostrophes, ellipses and parentheses. We beat periods into our pillows. When it's all over, we stop to admire our final product, a magazine filled with thousands of words and punctuation marks and the stories behind them. It's the result of 12 months of collaboration between editors and writers, artists and designers, every syllable agonized over, every drop of ink deliberately placed. Then suddenly, we forget about our afternoons of adding and removing commas. Only the work itself remains, literature and art that speaks to us in the unique and powerful voices of American River College's writers and artists, reminding us why we do what we do. And now, we proudly offer to you the 2010 edition of the American River Review, M-dashed and semicolons perfection, the final comma in its place. Thank you. Our first reader is probably the most published writer we have in the history of the review, Miss Marilyn Woolner. And she's going to be reading from a book of hers. So thank you, Marilyn. Come on up.
I guess I've had a trifecta. This is the third year. Oh my God. And I understand that I got an award for something I wrote this last year for comedy. And I can't understand why they did that, because I thought it was a heartbreaking work of staggering genius. I just didn't get it. I didn't think it was funny at all. Okay, well, Well, I'm 80 years old, so I've gone from being a wiseacre to a wise ass to a wise old crone. And I do have a bit of advice to give you, a bit of wisdom that has served me well. And remember, what you get for nothing is worth it. And that is that a dirty mind is a perpetual solace. Now, whenever I would try to read my poems to friends or family, they would say, "I'll wait for the book." So I had a little book printed for them. So, remembering that little bit of wisdom I laid on you, I give you part scene based on a true story. Two old farts, one tall and skinny, the other not so, sit on the picnic table, sandaled feet on bench, knees akimbo, genitalia lolling out of Patagonia shorts. They chat, unaware of giggling girls scoping them, balls and all. Then my last reading is the title of my little book, What I Know of the Known World. That it is smaller than both the universe and my spirit. Its populations fugitive and tense. I have its map, and it has changed. Tanganyika shape-shifted to Tanzania. Burma, now Myanmar. The Congo morphed to Zaire. Yugoslavia riven into Serbia and Montenegro. What is on my wall is nostalgic geography. My own geography is not impervious to change. My hair now gray, my step less sure. But my spirit sanguine, in this world, not of it. Thank you for the kindness of your listening, and happy Hanukkah.
Hey everybody, I'm Zach Adams. I'm Associate Editor-in-Chief this year. Our next reader will be Danny Gordon. She was Editor-in-Chief in past years, and she's also winner of numerous awards and current UC Berkeley graduate, or not graduate, student. So, yeah, let's not get ahead of ourselves. So, here's Danny Gordon.
If you're going to follow along, it's on page 190. And so essentially, I guess the story is about a young woman who is coping with some pretty severe emotional trauma. And the only real way that she knows how to do that is to stop talking to everyone around her. So that's just, so you're not lost. 190. My attempts are less successful, not talking to everyone, at work because everyone gets fed up with me writing notes or trying to sign to them, which I actually haven't been doing a whole lot of because, hey, this is retreating. You don't retreat from the world and still do a lot of talking. My manager pulls me into his office and reminds me where my papers are from. I say, okay, I am Suzanne, the speaker. I Sharpie this, my new title, onto a Post-it and stick it below my collarbone. Suzanne, the speaker, no more real thing. I want to wear my title like the women at abuse rallies who drape their pasts in block letters across their chests. Emotional abuse, marital rape. But my tee is red and yellow and 4 sizes too large because no one carries extra smalls and all they have is medium anyway. Will not say vocal. It will not say alive. It will say apathetic. Despite how much I want it to say orphan, despite how much I feel like one. This is the problem with having parents. Someone asks you what's wrong and you want to say, I am an orphan, that's what's wrong. But you have parents. Everything is contingent on the parents as if you are barred from some realm of human sympathy simply by having them.
You tell your friends you are going bankrupt, financially and emotionally and sexually. You say you are suddenly miraculously deaf, and they shrug and say, well, at least you have parents. At least I have parents. I am thinking about the parents and the post-it and the auditory numbness and whether or not it is a removal of sound or the forging of its absence. And I am thinking about last year when Rick broke it off because he said the way I brushed my teeth bothered him. And all this full faculty whirlwind, rush flood thinking, comes with the realization that I am the wrong girl. I am always the wrong girl, the one with the bad taste in jeans, the imaginary deafness, the limp. Mostly the limp. I try to fake one on the way to a meeting at noon, but it's actually a lot harder than it looks. I give up on the limp and settle for being 5 feet tall and invisible. In the conference room, I wait until everyone has gotten some coffee before I go up to get mine. I am the last one standing, and this makes me singular. I avoided the crowd. Their silence looks up at my ankles. No one asked if I would like a cup or if I read the article about the girl who was murdered over the weekend in La Jolla. This is normal. When you barely hit the 5-foot mark, you might as well be shag carpet or an armchair. No real thing, no. The presentation starts. I sit quietly and listen. Marie from marketing writes on the whiteboard, draws a graph, explains a lot. A lot of nodding from my coworkers. There is always a lot of nodding at these kinds of meetings. Like we are trying to say to one another, yes, I acknowledge your existence. You are a real person. On the way back to our boxes, Mike says, great talk, huh? But he is looking at my jeans, and I know he is thinking, wrong. The biochemicals in his brain are triggering reactions in fractions of seconds, and they are all thinking, wrong, wrong, synapse, synapse, wrong. At my desk, I sit, I wait, I eat a block of cheese. This will not feel good tomorrow. Thank you.
Our next reader is Viola Allo. She is reading 2 poems, Nigerian Girl with Calabash and Olive is a Light Shade of Brown on pages 67 and 70. Viola Allo was raised in Cameroon and she has a background in psychology and anthropology, so she brings a really unique perspective in her poetry. Viola Allo.
Pleasure for me to be here. I had the great opportunity of traveling back to Cameroon this summer. It was a wonderful trip. I didn't want to come back. And actually, one of the things that brought me back, the top thing that brought me back was wanting to be here, to be able to read my poems. And I just got back a week ago, and I would like to thank the professors in creative writing here, Professor Wilson, Professor Sturgis, and Professor Harold Schneider, for really encouraging me. I can't thank you enough. And I would also like to thank the editorial staff of the review for making my poems so much better in the original word. So I have 2 poems. The tones of both poems are very different. One I wrote with my academic voice in mind, and the other one is with a rebellious voice, so I hope you will enjoy both of them. The first poem, Nigerian Girl with a Calabash, I'll just say a few things. I mentioned Fulani, and it's an ethnic group in West Africa. There are Fulani pastoralists in northern Cameroon, but I traveled to Nigeria, so I got to see a few. They keep cattle and sell milk, and that's a way to earn income. I mentioned Naira, which is the Nigerian currency. I mentioned 2 cities in Nigeria, Ibadan and Kaduna. Ibadan is in the south and Kaduna is in the north. And the woman I talk about in this poem I saw on a trip that I took from south to north of Nigeria. Nigerian Girl with Calabash. She sells milk to thirsty travelers, wraps her spine slow on the shoulder of the road, calabash on head, broad woody bowl perched on circular twist of dyed cotton cloth, her body a thread beneath it. Her thick braids say she's ethnic Fulani. Weighted with oil, they graze the sides of her bamboo neck, ropes that set the bells of her red bead gold earrings swaying in the steeple of her face. Her calabash contains her offering to the busy car park, a place of fair transactions, a glass of milk for a few naira, for less than the alms one might part with on a Sunday. She holds herself straight on the curved arm of the road, soothes what she can of a bounty of human need, shelters her calabash with a flat roof of woven straw. A point of light travels through this palm fiber roof to excite the lake of viscous white trapped inside. But there is no splash of milk, no, not like July monochrome raindrops when they slosh in monsoon buckets that travel heavy and tilt over Africa. Her mother must have said, "Careful as you carry this," as if it were a crown. Slender arms of mother and daughter lifted up and steadied the gourd hours ago. And when their arms fell, silver bracelets tinkled like wind chimes, then settled loosely on narrow wrists, encircled the warmth pulsing there. Now, against an unguarded symphony of cars, passengers, voices of men and machines that try to but cannot blend, she lowers her calabash, brings herself to the ground to uncover it. Braids, earrings, bracelets in motion, she squats and enters the sound that the road brings. Some people say that Africans have been left behind, as if time selects the ones it catches up to and pulls to the ground. But time leaves no one behind, not even a girl with a calabash. Time swallows her stillness like a thirsty traveler on the road from Ibadan to Kaduna. Olive is a light shade of brown. Olive-skinned women provide a brown respite to his white. "It's a mystery," he says. There is something about a woman whose skin is golden like finished boards of soft pine wood propped up among his workshop tools. There is a grain to her round freckles and splatter paint birthmarks that feels good to his calloused builder's hands. Her body is a warm jar of wildflower honey he wants to dip his fingers into. "I'm kind of stuck," he says, because here he is, a man with blue eyes and hair of sunlight striking bales of hay. Hair not black, coil spring curly like mine, but straight like his cat's fur. Hair not like my hair, metallic black cascade of corkscrews that bolt him to the bed. Here he is, and women with olive skin drive him wild.
Next we have Judith Ryan reading. She is going to be reading a poem from last year's issue entitled Voyeurs, and she's also going to be reading a poem from this year's issue called Dinner Time at Homestead Facility.
I'm not sure what I'm doing here. This reading is just fabulous. I'll just take a stab at it. This poem is written in response to a vacation my husband and I took to Maui last year. and this was a result of a view from our lanai. It's called Warriors. My husband and I returned to our suite over brilliant scallop steps to find tea and dark chocolate folded back in a wave of silk on our bed. From our lanai, we watch a buoyant couple toss in a sea of white down and caddis ribbons of ocean salt. Hardy lanterns enough to reveal their hair, a luminous raiment of sand and shells. We watch ourselves from years ago, know they will cross stone steps, comb this ocean from the other's hair, thread out tiny shells to see them fall in a fever upon the pillows, their bodies floating in just enough moon. Thank you, David. You helped me with that. In listening to everybody's responses or comments for their posts, I guess, according to Margaret, I'm kind of, what is it, an old ass, and kind of in that realm. And also would like to thank the professors who are just, they're fabulous. They're just unbelievable. So anyway, this poem was written a couple of years ago and then revised about 1,000,000 times. But thank you for helping me make it a better poem. And it's a scene that I witnessed when I went to what's carelessly called a care facility for older people. And my mother was there. And I came up to see her right around dinner time. And I walked around the corner up the stairs and I just, bam, I saw this scene, and this is what resulted. It's called Dinner Time Homestead Care Facility. Thinning gray faces, like nylons wrapped into knots, hang in a line along B-wing wall. Sparrow-shouldered, diminished, wingless birds dressed in pastel. Legs like brown gunny sacks of socks sag below their metal chairs. Senior spirit on a half-torn sticker mocks from a wheel's spokes. All decrushing glass angels in a soup line 430. Their dancing bones moved by strangers in yellow kitty smocks. They are lost on a dance floor of pill-dollop dinners spilled from white pleated cups. Rubber-gloved hands, sterile comrades. Uprooted refugees of the Second World War, amputees now, at battle with the horrid solitude of age. Charlie McCarthy stand-ins, hinged mouths cocked, open, as a string of saliva like wet glue stretches between lips. Their voices diaphanous spirits, their shoe leather hearts losing ground. And to this place we bring our baby-like mother in a dry wind of final days, before her heart wears through to sallow tiles beneath her wheels. She lines up with the rest, finds silent acceptance in the hollow knowing there is no secret basement to skip. Thank
you. Our next reader is going to be Mark Bernasconi. Mark, you here?
Yes.
And Mark will be reading his poem, Anne Marie. I remember being impressed by the controlled language and the subtlety in the poem when we were selecting. So, come on.
Thank you.
Page 45.
that definition here, the word kirsch is a type of liqueur made from cherries. It's an old photograph, but soft like brown graphite drawing. The backs of your fingers lightly brush the rough paper's bumps and pits. A quiet scene around a table with tartan cloth, a scalloped bowl of grapes, peaches, pears, a wooden bench along two sides, a freshly waxed parquet floor. My grandfather, in a heavy twill suit, silk tie, white shirt, and slim watch, his hair combed back and brillianting, with a high fade in the nape. A plate of grape stems where there should be a glass and a bottle of kirsch. My grandmother sits opposite with lacquered waves of hair, a necklace over her buttoned-up blouse. Behind her, the Bakelite telephone that costs for each call and never must get used when father is here. My mother and my aunt sit on the bench, dressed up because it is Saturday and they are home, missing their sister Anne Marie, who's perhaps already fled to other countries. And afterwards, grandfather will go sit and smoke on the slate bench by the raspberry bushes in the humid August afternoon. Grandmother will get roots from the cellar or make jam, and the young women will unbutton their blouses and plan their own cigarettes.
Hi everyone. We're going to talk a little bit about the art and design side of the magazine. I'm Rachel Pope. I'm one of the art directors.
And I'm Zing Zhang, and I'm one of the other art directors.
So the art side of the magazine starts in the spring semester with the art selection class, usually taught by Heidi Nelson. This class is responsible for collecting the artwork, photographing the artwork, cataloging the artwork, discussing the artwork, arguing about the artwork, and then finally voting on it. The artwork that is voted into the A list by the art selection class gets forwarded on to the design class, which is design for publication, held in the fall semester. The design class is, it's quite an experience. The design class gets, like I said, the art submissions that were voted in the A list. It also receives from the literary side of the magazine all the poetry and the creative nonfiction. From there, we kind of hold auditions in a sense. The first month or so is spent doing what you could call practice layouts, seeing what everybody do, who we can put where, who will fit best in what spot. The typefaces, the grids, all the layouts are chosen by students. The layouts are created by students. It's a long and sometimes tedious and exciting process. There's two different sides to the publication class. There's the graphic design side of it and the production side of it. Production, we have our production artists who are responsible for taking the artwork submissions, masking out the backgrounds, putting in shadows, color correcting, anything that needs to happen to make them be as good as possible for the magazine. The design side consists of our graphic designers, obviously, who are responsible for creating all the layouts. They're responsible for arranging the artwork in the gallery, which you can see is kind of spaced out throughout the magazine. The design process usually begins with many thumbnails. Many thumbnails. And once we finally have layouts that we've decided upon, decided that's what we're going to go with, they're put into a dummy book, which is essentially this small book. Put the pages in there, decide what order we'd like things to go in, where we want the artwork to go in relation to the literature, all that stuff. Once we've figured that out mostly, we start putting together our master file, which the master file is something that we usually end up having trouble printing proofs of because there's something in there that just crashes the printers. This year our printer was dome printing, same as last year. I think they did a pretty damn good job. We went through 3 sets of proofs and finally a press check. Press check, basically they're starting to print the magazine. They pull a giant signature page, which is about this big, out of the printer as it's coming out, and you check it. If everything with all the registration looks good, then you're good to go and they'll print it. Then cut and bound, and that's where we are now. We just got our magazines today, they're done. So I'd like to say thank you to my production managers, keeping track of all that artwork and keeping track of what got done on it, who did it, what still needs to be done, getting things fixed when it needed to get fixed. So thank you very much. Maybe Christine and Jeff, you guys can raise your hands maybe for a sec, something. Hey. Thanks a bunch for doing all that you did. You guys were a huge help. Huge thanks to all the staff members that contributed, helped out, all my graphic designers, all my production artists. Thanks a bunch. You guys were great this year. So, let me see. Oh yes, we also have our web designer, Nick Peterson. To go to our website, I believe it's arrmagazine.com. Yes. He has done a fantastic job with that website. It looks fabulous. He was also in charge of helping to organize all of our promotional items, the bookmarks, the flyers, the posters, all that sort of stuff.
Flash the lights.
How's the soda?
Turn off your cell phone.
About to find out, huh?
The vibrator that wasn't already mentioned. The American River Review receives a lot of support from a lot of different places, but frankly there is no greater champion on campus than President David Bayar. His support of the American River Review has been astonishing, and we are very grateful he joins us tonight. So please welcome me and welcome the President.
Special evening, so I won't take a lot of time because I know we've got something very special next. But this, for me, is truly the most exciting day of my presidency each year of the 5 years I've been here, when I know that I get to come and hear the presentations, to see the art, to actually feel this, and know that over the weekend I'm going to be reading away and getting ready to send this magazine off to a lot of people. College and university presidents often get to talk a lot about their winning teams. Notre Dame, well, not Notre Dame. USC, no, not USC. But anyway, university presidents get to talk about their winning football teams, their winning basketball teams. This is our winning team and our winning product. And I'm very proud that I get to go around Sacramento and with my friends of the state and talk about the most award-winning production that there is in literary magazines, and talk about how it is all about partnerships and working across the curriculum, our art new media, our English, everyone working together. And that's what it's about when you go out into the big world, about learning to work with each other in all your disciplines. And then this year, adding an actual stage production of the readings of this particular, brings in the theater into this as well. So this truly is about a winning team, the students, winning coaches are faculty producing a winning product. So it's great to have you all here tonight. Let's keep spreading the word about this great institution that you come from. This is the story we have to tell. So great to be with all of you tonight.
Hello, I'm Devin Ritchie. I'm one of the designers of the magazine, and I am someone whose life was just consumed by it this semester. I started out on the English department for about the first day of class and decided I was a designer. And then I went to the design half, and then Pam Downs approached me about starting a Reader's Theater production of the 2009 version, and we were going to present a few pieces from that tonight. So, here are our performers. This is Colton Archie, John Farnsworth, Mary Goodall, and Brittaleigh Baskerville. And first, we were going to start out with Levee Watch, McCalmy River, by James Joyce.
Noah lies on the slant backside of the levee. Prone, he keeps an ear to the earth. He strains to hear a burp of air up from dirt, or a cascade of pebbles, any sign or symptom that will lead to trouble. In his heart, Noah knows God, his rainbow promise would not renege. In the dark distance, in the fog of January night, the red lights of radio towers blink. Noah feels the cold mist condense in his Bible-length beard and pushes up from the ground. He brushes the clay and dust from his Gore-Tex jacket. Soundlessness rings in his ears. The river is too heavy to play on the rocks or to babble around the branches of fallen trees. Noah will wait until spring when the Sierra snow melts to look for cracks in the construction. He kicks the dirt at his feet, believing it strong that it will hold. But in the meantime, Noah pockets pairs of spiders, pillbugs, and beetles, holding them in the waterproof folds of his jacket.
Continuing on the theme of nature, the next poem will be Red-tailed Hawk, Road 198.
I've pulled onto the slanted shoulder a time or 20 to witness the quiet, pointing fierceness of her solitary perch on a power pole or a leafless tree with winter gray skin. Yes, in all manner of wingless beings, I envy the flight that sleeps easy in this raptor's bones. The talon grip she has on her own transcendency, but it is her feathers' fine focus. The way she waits as though time limits her less than gravity that stops me. How she hunts sometimes by staying just this side of still. Liquid tilt of the head, shift of eye, movements as subtle as a signature's unique slope and curl. When I stop to watch her, not fidget, not blink, not question. I want to fit and rest inside my hunger like a red-tailed hawk. I want to peer through mist and grass and find the thing that feeds me.
And now we will hear View from Above.
We stand in a wicker basket as a pastel sky dawns and flames inflate orange and yellow nylon, lifting us to a lofty perch above the Serengeti plains. Our tether to earth dangles like the tentacle of a jellyfish beneath its billowing body, reveling in its emerald world. The endless green of rhizome shoots forms the fodder for clownish wildebeests who bellow and snort beside zebras. Herd melds into herd, moving quilts of migration. A lion, hiding in the grass, returns me to the nursery book read to my sons, in which miniature wild animals roam in a backyard garden. But danger lingers, hidden amidst thin blades of grass, and beasts reign, poised, red in tooth and claw.
Next, we have two poems that focus on the topic of old age and aging, something that this magazine had a few pieces to talk about. The first is Reflections on Old Age, Part 1 by Marilyn Wallace. I no longer consult mirrors. They have nothing new to tell me. Oh, there's no avoiding them, obsequious intruders on my field of vision when, say, brushing teeth or hair. Orthodox Jews cover them when there is a death in the family. Vanitas vanitatum. To do this for the death of one's youth would not be kosher. I note the young checking themselves in any reflective surface, like store or car windows. I want to shout, if you're not sure that you are here, why don't you just ask me? Old age part 2.
Fitting they gave this one to me. I have joined the ranks of old women who move among you. Food stains on jackets, glasses occluded with dust motes, manufacturers' labels and attention on necks, telling the world, I live alone.
Now we move into a section speaking about war. First we will have a ringing, and then Meat Flies, book by James Moore.
In my right ear, a constant hiss that muffles the susurrant sounds of voices caught an instant too late by my left. I have no purple heart to prove the presence of this hiss. No monthly government check. It is undocumented, unofficial. In my mind, I make up romantic excuses. It was a bomb blast or a snap of bullets in a firefight with Taliban. Gunpowder gases exploding and expending hot casings. No. It was at night. In a room made of Afghan mud where I sat alone, scared of the dark, scared of the constant silence. I used my headphones to battle the quiet. The piercing cymbals of rock music reminded me I was alive. The hiss embedded in my ear. Now in the dark, preceding sleep, or in the moments when sound is everywhere else in the world, I only hear a ringing in my right ear, a constant reminder of silence.
Afghanistan, 2003. Take the meat with the flies on it, our interpreter told us. No flies means they sprayed it with pesticide. We always ask for well done. Each day, the meat was hung from hooks in a market that smelled like metal and ocean. Each morning, the local restaurant owners came to pick the beef for the evening meals, barbecued on rice, wrapped in naan. We walked through on armed patrols asking generic questions like, do you feel safe? Do you like Karzai? Yes, 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 they told us, holding up what they had to sell or request to spend our American dollars. Each morning, the butchers led their cows to the shallow river at the east edge of Gardez. Each morning, slashed throats bled into a pool of slow water, the round rocks mixing it to a froth before it went on to the Hindu Kush, to the Indus River, miles and countries away. We really enjoyed performing for you guys and taking the literature from the page to the stage. And we look forward to doing it again for the 2010 version. It's going to be good. We're going to finish out tonight by performing one last piece. This is The Troops by Reginald J. Otto.
The whole reason we went looking for Mr. Porter, because Mike Tannenbaum broke Russ Porter's nose. What happened was, we were having a boner measuring contest at a 10 with our flashlight and
Club International magazine that Nick Pankey had bought off his older Marine Corps brother.
On Michael's turn, he took a look at the magazine forever and then took the ruler and the flashlight under his sleeping bag and told us 9 inches.
Russ called Mike a liar.
And Mike said it was true.
And Russ said, prove it.
And Mike called Russ a fag.
And Russ called Mike a fucking liar and told him that his dad told him that Jews have smaller dicks than Asians.
And Mike hit Russ.
Just once. Russ wasn't really crying or anything, but his nose was crooked and there was blood coming out of it. I heard it doesn't hurt very much, and I think Russ just wanted to get Mike in trouble. There was no way he could kick Mike's ass.
Russ left the tent saying fucking something, something. Hand covering his mouth, trying to keep the blood out of his nose.
Nick asked Mike if he was scared.
Mike said no.
Mr. Porter was an anti-Semite, and he would tell. We waited without saying anything after that.
But Nick picked up the club where Mike had dropped it and started looking at this photo of two Asian ladies fingering each other.
We heard Russ yelling for his dad and unzipping the flap on Mr. Porter's tent. And then he came back.
He's not there, he said through the flap on the side.
Mike shook his head and took the club away from Nick.
Who said nothing. He laid the magazine out beside his bag and started to clean under his nails with a knife.
I decided to take out my multi-tool and work on some whittling. It wasn't for the badge, I already had that one. I had the most out of all of us. Except for the knot tying badge. Should have worked on knot tying, but I wasn't thinking.
Nick, just sitting there with his mouth open, jumped when Russ said something to us through the flap again.
I don't know where my dad went.
Pissing? Asked Nick.
No one pisses for that long, said Mike.
Maybe he's taking a dump.
It doesn't take that long to take a dump, unless you're constipated.
Russ said that his dad wasn't constipated. I'm gonna go see if he's at the bathroom.
We heard him stomping away over the leaves and sticks, and then he came back 5 seconds later and everyone wanted to come with him.
Mike said sure.
And Russ said anybody but Mike can go.
And I told him I would go. I knew Nick wouldn't. Nick was always kissing Mike's ass, and he was scared of the dark. I was scared of the dark too, but not as much as Nick. These woods were full of owls and other noisy, spooky birds. I put on my parka and asked Mike for my flashlight, and went outside to put my boots on. Russ held the flashlight while I tied them.
So long, fairies, Mike said.
And we left. The restrooms were a long way from our site. One of us just had to take a piss. We usually just go on the trees and bushes somewhere around the tent, but not too close. I don't know what Russ's dad did, if he just whipped it out around the campsite and walked all the way to the bathrooms. He probably just whipped it out. Another reason I went along was because I had to take a shit, but I didn't tell anyone that. We walked. It's dark, said Russ, even though we both had flashlights. Yeah, cold, even though we both had parkas and sweatshirts and long underwear. Yeah.
Are we going the right way?
Yeah. I wasn't sure, but I didn't want to say so because it would give Russ something else to talk about, and I was really hoping he'd just shut his mouth. The guy couldn't stand the quiet. I remember one time, after a 6-mile hike on the ride home, nobody wanted to talk, not even Mr. Porter.
So Russ started to read the road signs out loud.
It was a miracle, but he didn't say anything for what seemed like a long time, probably a minute.
I wonder where my dad is.
Crapping. Bet we run into him before we even get back to the bathrooms.
It seems a lot farther than before.
The dark makes things seem farther. All around you, you hear things moving over leaves and through the trees and in the bushes.
If my mom were here, she wouldn't have left the campsite.
Yes, she would have, more than your dad. Ladies can't even take a pee without going to the bathroom. You have to get up and go to the bathroom every time she had to take a leak.
If my mom were here, she would have already yelled at Michael and told him to pack up his shit and call his parents.
No, she wouldn't. You know how tough Mike is. He has a 6-pack. You'd probably break your mom if you really tried. Thank you. I thought he would finally shut his damn mouth. It was like he forgot he was mad right away and started talking again.
Why aren't mothers ever scout leaders?
They don't know how to handle the wilderness like our dads do. Besides, they are scout leaders. For girls.
Why can't they lead a boys' troop?
Would you want your mom or someone else's mom as their scout leader? Or my mom? What if you got poison oak on your dick like that one kid? Would you just pull your schlong out and have your mom or someone else's mom check it out? He didn't answer, so I guess he agreed with me. He stopped walking and said,
I don't think this is the way.
maybe not.
I thought you said it was.
I thought it was, maybe it's not. He moved his flashlight over to the side of his hat and found a big rock to sit on.
My nose hurts. I think that dickhead really broke it.
Let's turn around and find the bathrooms, and maybe your dad can tell you if it's broken.
My uncle had his nose broken in college, and it's crooked now. I'll sue Michael if that happens.
The faster your dad has a look at it, the sooner a doctor can fix it if something's wrong.
In a minute.
The rock was big enough so that he could lie back on it. I stayed standing. I knew that if I sat down, he would never get up.
You know, said from the rock, I think you're wrong. I think my mom would be a good leader for us.
Well, she's not here, but your dad is somewhere, so let's go find him.
Russ wasn't ready to leave.
He acted like I hadn't said anything and kept talking. I started feeling happy that Mike had punched him. I hoped that his nose was broken and it would never look normal again and that he'd have to spend the rest of his life indoors, hidden from normal people.
Ugly and alone. I think my mom could do a better job than my father. My dad's not a bad troop leader for us, but he's not always around when we need him. Like right now, we don't even know where he is. And sometimes he's just around the campsite, just joking and goofing off. It just seems like he's just another scout, bigger and older.
Your dad's a good leader. He's fine. Remember when he started that fire for us when it was raining out of Lake Arthur? He knows his stuff. And he did, too. Russ's dad was in the Army Reserve or something. He joined in college to help pay for it. I remember he told us one time for part of his training, he had to go out in the wilderness for 5 days. No food or supplies, just a rabbit he had to skin and cook himself. It's like Survivor. With no cameras or hot girls. But Russ was kind of right about his dad being a bigger scout. Sometimes he would tell us these sort of dirty jokes around the campfire. Nothing like the stuff Nick would tell us in the tent. And I'm sure he would have been okay with our boner contest. But every once in a while, he'd laugh when someone ripped a really loud one. And sometimes he'd rip one too. While Russ kept sighing, I started thinking about my dad. He was always watching old westerns on AMC when he was at home. His favorites were the ones with John Wayne. He would always say things like, "That's what a man used to be like. No expense account, no suit and tie, just a gun in his guts. Sip his whiskey." Russ was holding his flashlight up to his hand and looked at the blood on his fingers, and then he saw a little drop on his shirt.
This is going to stain!
We need to get going.
Mike's dad is going to have to pay for this to be cleaned, professionally.
Shut up. We need to go. Our flashlights won't last forever. We need to go now. Russ blew his nose.
Oh shit, there's more blood.
Are you listening to me?
It's really starting to hurt again. I think we should stay here a little longer. Aren't you supposed to elevate it? Let me lie here for a minute.
You don't elevate your nose, dumbass. It's for a sprained ankle. Come on.
When you're lost, the rule is to stay put. We'll only make things worse.
We're not lost, you stupid shithead. We're on a trail. Don't be the pussy Mike thinks you are.
I'm staying. Someone will show up if we stay.
Fuck. I hope your fucking nose is broken. I hope they have to amputate. Stay here. Stay here. I'm gonna go find your stupid dad. Just stay here till I get back. Russ had one of those cheap yellow plastic flashlights that old people kept in the trunks of their cars. And I knew that if he kept it on, it would run out of batteries. I had a Maglite. It was extra bright and ran forever on just a couple of batteries. Russ's dad said that cops used it because it was so bright they could spot criminals at midnight, and it was so sturdy they could beat the criminals with it if they didn't want to shoot him.
Russ used to have a Maglite, but he lost it.
On our last camp out. That was the second one he lost, actually. I jogged away, cussing loud enough for Russ to hear part of what I was saying, and left him behind. He started signaling,
"Asshole,"
in Morse code. I thought about signaling something back, but I decided to keep going. The trail went up a little hill, and at the top I could see the dim lights of the bathroom just a little farther away. I could hear the showers before I even got inside, and I started worrying that maybe there was some bearded mountain man running around naked. But Russ's dad was probably in the bathroom, and that made me feel a little better. I went in. Mr. Porter wasn't at the urinals, and I couldn't see anyone's legs under the stalls. Instead of shouting out his name, I decided to knock. He was taking a dump. I didn't want to startle him, and I thought that if I did yell out his name, whoever was in the shower might come out without a towel because I thought I was yelling at them. The first door swung open when I knocked on it. There was crap all over the seat, so I couldn't use it. There's a huge picture of a dick scratched on the wall with a phone number underneath it. I tapped on the second one. No one answered. I tried again a little harder, and when I didn't hear anything, I gave it a little push. No one in there either. Just little glass bottles floated in the toilet along with some bloody toilet paper. Even though the guy was completely fucktard, the blood made me think of Russ. And I started to remember in this karate class last summer how the sensei told us that you could kill a man with one blow by hitting up into the base of his skull with the palm of your hand, send bone shards into the guy's brain. But maybe he didn't die right away. Maybe he could walk and talk and act like a total dick for a few minutes before dying. I had to find Mr. Porter, so I started yelling, "Mr. P! Mr. P!" That was what he had us call him. "Mr. P!" A noise moving, and I heard another grunt. Up the path, Russ, the asshole,
With bleeding and maybe dying.
pulling open a curtain that's covering grunting. Some pretty serious shit. But I knew I had to be a man. So I took my multi-tool out, gripped the handle, locked the blade. I pulled on the curtain, and someone pulled on the other side, tried to hold it shut. I lost my balance, fell back on the floor. The curtain fell on me, and in the little changing area in front of the shower was a tall, skinny blonde guy with red puffy eyes. He had a small dick that looked like a little elephant trunk. Like my dad said European guys always have. At first I thought he was totally naked, but his socks, the extra thick kind for hiking, were still on, oozing dirty water soaked up from the floor.
Oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. Kid, are you alright?
He started to lean down like he was gonna touch me. I screamed,
Fuck! Wait! Wait! He said. I'm not going to hurt you, but be quiet, please.
I screamed louder.
God damn it, shut up!
And then something behind him groaned something like my name, and I quit screaming. Mr. Porter? Something like my name again. The blonde guy dropped into the little wooden bench built into the wall of the changing area. There was Mr. Porter in the shower. His eyes closed. He wore a baseball cap and a tank top that stuck to his half buff, half fat body. No pants or underwear or boxers. And he had a purple, bruised-looking boner that was bigger than the blonde guy's. Mr. P opened one of his eyes for a second, then shut it and tried to say my name. The shower washed a little blood coming out of his nose.
See?
The blonde guy said, his hand on his forehead.
It's okay. I know things look bad, but we've got to handle this quietly and calmly. We've got to be very calm and quiet.
What did you do to him? I was still on my ass on the floor, trying not to cry.
Me hurt him?
Mr. Porter started groaning some more and opened his eye halfway.
And looked at me. Part of his mouth drooped while he tried to talk.
This is your fault.
The blonde guy said to him.
I told you that 3 poppers were too much. Even for you. And with the kids to watch.
Mr. Porter tried to lift himself off the tile with one arm and shook his head funny like he didn't remember how.
And I couldn't help it anymore. I started to cry. Can you hear me, Mr. Porter? It's Eddie! Eddie Galloway! Russ is hurt! He needs a doctor!
Mr. Porter opened his eye.
He looked right at me.
No!
The blonde guy shouted, standing up from the bench.
We need to figure this out on our own. No doctors, Eddie.
Don't call me that.
I know you.
He said. He got closer.
Mr. P started moaning like a retard.
His voice was soft now. He looked up and started coming towards me.
I live around Marin too. Mr. Porter and I, we're practically neighbors.
No.
I think I even met you once at one of their barbecues.
Mr. P flapped his arm.
I'm sure of it. Last 4th of July?
You don't. You're lying, you faggot. I laughed like a crazy person in a movie, and I threw my flashlight just to get away from him. But I hit him in the eye. He fell back into the shower, and his head hit the tile on the back wall. There was a crunch like something inside of him broke. He fell down right on top of Mr. Porter, who pointed at me with his arm and started groaning. I could feel the loose turn in my pants, and I knew I had to get out of there. Even if Russ was dying, even Mr. Porter and the blonde guy were dying too. So I got up out of there, and I ran, and I never looked back. The moon was so small that night, my flashlight was gone, but I ran to where I thought Russ might be. After a minute of running, he still wasn't there. I wondered if he was dead. I was sure something was coming after me, so I ran from the path into the trees. Tied so close together with small branches that scratched my face and hands, and the ground uneven with all the dead needles and cones, and I kept running, and I could only think of one word as the woods cut me up and my tears made it sting worse. And it wasn't help! And it wasn't God! And it wasn't fuck! It was only something stupid, and it was all I could think of. Mom.
Thank you all very much for watching this. This is the first experimental year of the Reader's Theater of the Lit Mag, and we think it went well, and we're excited to bring it to you again next year with the 2010 version. We are also opening a new theater space in the next year. We're opening Black Box Theater, so hopefully this can be a bigger thing and not just be performed on a Monday and a Tuesday. But thank you all very much for watching. Have a nice night.
Is everybody ready for more poetry?
I'm really excited about this next author because his name is really fun to say. He's Portuguese and Italian, and he just told me some very exciting news. He signed a book deal for a children's book. So, reading School Photo of My Wife is Jose Uriana.
Hi everyone. I was really forced to buy the volume 21 and 22 of the American River Review magazine. I even called my teacher and my professor said, do we really have to buy it? Yes, we do, it's a requirement. So I bought it and I read it and it was good. It was really good. It was excellent. To a point that I start to kind of doubt my own judgment. So, you know, maybe I'm not literally advanced or artistically advanced. So I ventured and gave it as a birthday present to a friend of mine that's literally advanced. And he came back and said, wow, where do you got this? This is really good. And so I gave another 5 as birthday presents, and the same reaction for other people. So I developed a plan, and my plan is to make a lot of money, no matter what I do in life, and to make a lot of money, and be able to buy at least 100,000 of this. And give to the entire world. Because if inspiration is not an abstract concept, this is concrete. I would really like to thank the American River Review staff for giving us a chance to show our work. And I really like to thank Professor Merson for being my master, my mentor, and making writing fun again. Thank you, Professor. I know the title is kind of very complicated. I'm going to try to explain it my best here. It was a joke. So I saw this picture of my wife when she was in 4th grade, and resulted in this poem. Let's just say that if I hadn't been there, then that would be a love at first sight. School photo of my wife. That's her in the second row. It's not Elizabeth, neither Liz, not even Lizzie. She's Lizard, the pop, the cool, the leader. Between the boys and the teacher, by neither chance nor choice, her posture almost subjugates the others. Right hand on hip, left in pocket, quickly tilted head, skimming brow. The other girls dressed in their southern bell glossy dresses, all sleeves, lace, ribbons, and knee highs, pixie cuts, finger waves, beehives, French braids, more ponytails than in any given stable. But with dirty white teeth and stone-washed cutoffs, bubblegum cheeks, and pastel locks, she stands out among her classmates. Nobody looks at the flowers when a hummingbird is around. 27 kids trying to strike a pose, and she's the exception to the rule. I gaze away from the lens, a lone smirk, and a chorus of cheesy smiles. Thanks.
Okay, next up is Nathan Bites, author of I'll See You When I See You. He's actually also the poetry editor this year and last semester as well. And you know, he's become known on the staff for a certain catchphrase, which I won't burden you guys with now, but you know, suffice to say that at first it sort of felt like he was forcing it down our throats, but we came to enjoy it.
Hi, thanks for coming out. It's page 177, if you want to read along. Or if you don't, you can listen. I'll see you when I see you. I want to make a muscle-bound and promiscuous return from Clark Kent's 8-week Body of Steel conditioning regimen to cuckold other men. I want to box animals with just my bare hands. Started a dog and earn my way to a small bear. I'm gonna beat the shit out of a lot of wild. I want to name undiscovered virgin lands after myself in hope of salvaging my ego, long dimmed by the knowledge that I was not first in even my own birth canal. But there are times after our fleshy rendezvous, whenever you flee the room of our already old sex, all I can muster is to paint the walls in the irregular forms of my fantasies. Me winding up a kick at a coyote, a peacock to panhandle your attention. The colors all double bright to make up for you.
Yeah, so Bertolac is next. Okay, so next is Rachel Gardner reading Bertolac, and she's making this efficient for us. And this year we've actually published a monster story. And when we were discussing this piece, we were like, well, what makes a monster story more than just a monster story? And you know, we decided it's a story that you know, goes beyond to giving us just examples of these made-up monsters, but those monsters in turn reveal something about being human. And I think Rachel Gardner has accomplished that in this piece. So reading Bertolac, which is on page 146, is Rachel Gardner.
I know there have been a lot of things tonight. I'm going to add to that 2 thanks. One to the editing staff, who've never made an unreasonable suggestion. You guys were awesome. And 2 to the design staff, who are just, this is more awesome than I could have ever imagined. A word about where this comes from. It comes from a lot of places, but this all started when I rolled over in bed at exactly 7:30, I remember it, and caught the beginning of a foreign movie. I think it was French. And I saw just one line, the couple is Italian, and it was about a boy being adopted, I think, and that just spun me off in this direction. And the word Bertolac, or I wrote it and I don't know how to pronounce it. It's one of many Eastern European or just European vampires who have such an interesting psychological bent to me. Is a person who has died, and they come back and they prey not on just the surrounding villagers, but on their own family. So, kind of keep that in mind as you read it. Okay. The boy knew what the happy couple really was, and that no child they had taken would ever come back. The boy was a small child, underfed with sad, dark eyes. He had outlived many cousins, uncles, great-aunts, 1 mother and 3 aunt-mothers. Though still a child, he was very familiar with death, and had become so inured to it that he no longer even blinked when those seeking shelter passed by, nursing stump limbs and shrapnel. The couple claimed to be Italian. The man had a young old face with smiling eyes, smiling wrinkles in the corners of his jolly face. The woman continually wore scarves, even indoors, and glasses she looked over but never through. Their eyes were large and too pale. They both had a plump, well-lived look about them that should have made them pleasant to look at, but in a place where road blockades often halted the flow of trade for weeks on end, they seemed to be almost mocking the kulaks with their health. Dmitri in the kitchen swore up and down that the two were children of Nazi sympathizers, loaded with gold stamped with the Iron Cross, taking children for their unholy experiments. Both Nikolai and Alexander, whose parents had been gun runners, said that they were rich Americans, unable or unwilling to pay the high prices of the traffickers. Anna, who had gone years ago, had told everyone who would listen that the couple were descendants of the boyars that had lived in the valley generations before, the aristocrats who had treated it as both a resort and an abattoir. She had a small portrait painted in woods of her uncle that she kept on a short cord around her neck. Her family had been charcoal burners dying of starvation when a well-dressed couple had come by one day asking after the boy. Her uncle had been the youngest by 7 years, and no one had the patience to placate the hungry child anymore. They gave the boy gladly, promising him that they would see him again someday. Now that all that was left of that boy was the portrait Anna held, a crude face in oils done in a hurry by the eldest brother before the smiling rich couple could take their new child. Anna was by no means alone. Many other children had donated a relative to the rich American boyars in distant past, always smiling, always two. Sometimes the others wondered aloud how many rich families still dwelled in their small valley, pockmarked with mines and trenches, and why they stayed. Yuri had never wondered. The surly boy had always whispered about family stories, the things his father told him when sober, and what he cried about when he drank. Yuri had been from the North Country, quick to temper and slow to apologize, and did not stoop to ingratiate himself with anybody. He and the boy fought, sometimes savagely, but he could be informative when the mood struck him. Yuri, who walked with a permanent limp, always told the boy that the man and the woman were part of the old country, of grandmothers who still smoked pipes, and men who buried the dead with a bottle of whiskey. They were beyond the memory of this place. They hunted here easily because they were forgotten. Yuri had been certain about the couple who came too often and kept something hidden under his shirt just in case they came for him. Now Yuri was gone, and the boy was certain. This place, for the forgotten and unwanted, the home in which they selected children like dry goods, lay in a steep valley that bombs and soldiers in olive coats had failed to destroy. It had once housed entire families and what meager possessions they could grab as fire rained down on them. Gaping sockets that once held chandeliers glared down at the boy as he ate his daily fare of withered vegetables and soft gray meat that no one could be bothered to place the origin of. Leaded glass multiplied the children on the creaking grand staircase, though there were empty spots where panes had been prized out and sold in hungrier times. Tall iron spires crowned the walls, framing the yards where children played quietly, without laughter. He was not the first one here to lose so many, but by now, he was the only one left.
Next up is Toshi Casey. She's another staff member. She was, I think, fiction editor, right, Toshi? And also she's been kicking butt on marketing this year, so come on up and read Homeless Garden for us. Thanks, Seth. Page 34.
I don't really have anything clever to say, so I'm just going to read my poem. Thank you all for coming, and I want to especially thank the Literary Magazine staff for giving me a kind of a look into the other side of things. Homeless Garden. On the street overhung with trellises that twist, from their iron sleeves, I keep looking up at the garden pews which float the pale sky between this city and God's eye. The black asphalt below rolls towards the river like a tongue waiting to catch whatever falls, a bit of petal, chewed gum, oak leaves, cigarette butts, bodies. I hit a wall of fumes simpering from an archway, where out of the hard, out of the gray, out of the sooted bed of a porch step, a body grows, and groans with the engines that roll up, their windows against the exhaust. A man sagged to the stones in his unwashed browns. Unwelcome crop of life, he seeds his possessions in the portico. I walk without a word for the odor rising from his body. In the heat of noon, a smell oblivious to shade. My brown eyes flick to quartz, afraid of a reflection. One paycheck, one accident, one addiction, close. I am a woman walking alone, so I feel justified in quickening my pace, a step. Spring breeze leaves him behind, and by the time I arrive at the wooden planks of Old Sack, I wipe a few beads from my hairline. I buy a pack of smokes from a tobacco shop, pull a long drag into my currently well-fed, housed, employed, spin-happy lungs. In the window of a tourist shop, they are selling me spring, in miniature tin buckets, decorative shovels, tiny packets of seeds, a magnet of a cute piggy with his straw hat and a pole that says, "Gone fishing." Part of me, still there, grows with him out of the cement, wind-balled dandelions, too far from heaven to see the garden, too far from the river to know a fish.
So next up is Connor Rose, author of Buyer's Remorse, which is on page 146. He's actually a personal friend of mine and a former Lit Mag staffer, so be nice. And what else? There was some other, also he defeated communism.
That's not as hard as you think. Isn't this a nice, very well put together book? It's really nice. It's very nice. It'll look great with somebody's stock. First of all, I wanted to thank the staffs of both sides, the art and the literary side. Going through the process from both as a staff member and as a contributor was a lot of fun, and it was great people like Dave Merson and Mike Spurgeon and the whole staff and the whole class of the American Art Review. I felt very privileged and I felt very honored to be working with them, not just because they're the most attractive class on campus with the most attractive people by far, but because it felt like being in the class felt like it wasn't just like doing an assignment or anything like that. It's people who were really believed in the project and really wanted to make the best issue that they could. And every year they always put out the very best. So thank you very much, you guys. It's really great. Now I'm gonna read a depressing poem. Buyer's Remorse. Among delicious dresseries on gallery walls, each outfit hung neatly and square. Scenes of February fling and May romance play out before the paint-coated pupils of the mannequin elite. Pedestal height and placement, no mere coincidence. They smile. I cough. Other shoppers, their patterns in movement and taste, creeping sensations of cramp and congest. This even after a remodel. Where's the promise of comfort? Where's the reason for coming back? Outside the curtain stalls, plastic bags filled with skirts, shoes, and other June commitments hang heavy on wrists, handcuffed to the other men, other boys attached to the benches, each providing his own take on the thinker. I find myself among their ranks, my brothers in arms around arms, ages before I stood next to her, both looking at and remarking on chivalry and its place in retail. There might have been laughing. I remember when dressing rooms were for undressing, when it used to take two. Even her sweatpants fogged glasses. It seemed like forever. give or take. What's she got in there anyways? September boredom, October dispel, some adorable fall reunions with some matching regrets, limited time offer. My phone reminds me I am still alive. Each minute a heartbeat, each flip of the screen, a check of the pulse. The hinge creaks and whines like a dog at the back screen. The hinge creaks and whines like a dog at the back of the screen door. Thank you.
All right, and our final reader for the night is going to be Megan Youngdahl. She was editor-in-chief this semester, but we actually picked the piece even though we didn't know it was her who wrote it, so it's pretty good.
This is the part of the night where I go from being sort of a nervous wreck to being like completely freaking out. So the piece that I'm going to read, The Truth About Blue, was completely a product of American River College's English department. I came back to American River College after being very, very distracted for 4 years in fall of 2007, and in Professor Dennis Lee's English 300 class, we read Joyce Carol Oates' Where Are You Going, Where Have You Been? And I was like, what is this short story writing? Like, this is so cool, I want to do this. So the next semester, I enrolled in David Merson's fiction class, and wrote this piece for one of the projects in there. Upon David's suggestion, I submitted it to the review. And in the meantime, in fall of 2009, the staff voted on it. And I was like, what is this American River Review? I have to do this. I have to be involved. So the following spring, I joined the staff as fiction editor. So essentially, it was my job to make sure that, all the fiction got the edits it needed, including my own, which was really weird. And it was, really interesting being a part of that process. And then this semester, working as editor-in-chief has been amazing, and enter Michael Spurgeon, who has, really helped me along the way as I've been freaking out over the editor-in-chief thing. So, yeah, okay. Did that seem really okay, I'm nervous, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna lie. Okay, so The Truth About Blue, which is on page 50, I'm gonna kind of start at the beginning and stop when I get too nervous. All right, her name is Carrie. Carrie's the girl with blue hair who meets boys at the club and fucks them the rock songs from a lime green MP3 player, a birthday gift from her mother. Carrie grew up an only child, and her father died of colon cancer when she was 17. She wore her MP3 to the funeral until her mother plucked the earbuds from her ears. The Violent Femme still playing in her head, Carrie walked up to her father's casket and took a photo of his corpse with an old Polaroid camera. His round, blue-white face bounced back the camera's flash, making her eyes water. "I'm so sorry, Carrie," said the neighbor, Mrs. Hofstetter. Carrie just smiled, planting her earbuds in her ears, and then she listened to American music 3 times, singing every word out loud. Now 21, Carrie lives by herself in a studio apartment downtown. She has a raspy, low, angry voice, which makes everything sound a little overly dramatic. On most nights, she walks with her friend Jane down 17th Street to the Vagabond. They glide through the crowded club. Carrie's short blue hair swings as she moves, harmonizing with the legato sway of her hips. Tonight, a Pixies cover band plays. Carrie and Jane lean with their backs against the bar, chanting drink orders over their shoulders. They pretend not to notice the groping gazes of men moving in on them. They run their fingers over the straps of their camisoles and lick their lip-glossed lips after each sip of liquor. A guy comes over and says his name is Tony. Carrie and Jane study his asymmetrical hairstyle, narrow black jeans, and the sleeve of ink on his arm. He leans into Carrie, lines around his eyes, and hints of gray in his hair. His face brushes Carrie's as he whispers in her ear, whiskers and whiskey stinging her cheek. He says, "You don't look old enough to drink." Tony pulls Carrie by the hand through the club, past people bobbing their heads to the music. She catches a heel in front of the stage and loses her balance. As she pulls herself up, she notices the drummer, a grin wrapped around his tomato-round face.
His hair is long and sleek, and he wears aviator sunglasses that reflect the people in the crowd in miniature. His shiny gold symbols glisten under the spotlights. Carrie looks at him again before leaving the club. His face. There's something oddly familiar about his face. He points a drumstick at her and mouths the words, "Gonna get you, baby." At her apartment, Carrie rides Tony to the doors. Her gaze bounces among a number of objects in her room. A Sex Pistols poster, a sticker-covered cello that never gets played anymore, an antique mirror smudged with liquid foundation and eyeliner, a drumstick nailed to the wall. She thinks of the drummer from the club, wondering what he looks like behind his sunglasses. After Tony leaves, Carrie gets her Polaroid camera from a dresser drawer. She takes a picture of her bedroom window and watches as the grainy image bleeds slowly to the bright white border. She pins it on the wall next to dozens of nearly identical photos, a few taken during the day, but most taken at night, all of an open window that faces a blank brick wall. Carrie stays up late, brushing the matted snarls from her brown-blue hair. Carrie's phone wakes her up the next day. It's Jane. "You forgot to call me," says Jane. "I was sleeping." It's almost 2. Carrie watches her ceiling fan shake above her head and wonders if it will someday fall on her in her sleep. "I was worried about you," says Jane. "That guy seemed kind of sketchy." "Okay. I mean it. Thought he might have ass raped you and thrown you in the river or something." "He did. I'm still alive, though." "Ha! You're such a whore." Carrie laughs. "So I'll see you tonight?" "Yeah." Carrie usually spends her afternoon studying or going to classes, but it's summer vacation, so she passes the hours at home listening to music and thinking about the guys she meets. In her head, the faces of all those men fuse together into one single face. Not so much a face, but more of a shadow that hangs over her bed and watches her as she sleeps. Carrie gets out of bed and takes a bath, careful not to let her headphone wire touch the water. She shaves her legs without soap or cream and watches shiny red dots pop up on the surface of her tissue paper skin. Thank you. So this is the part of the night where we get to embarrass people, if they haven't already been embarrassed.
Ethan still wets his bed.
The literary staff has a couple of very special people that they would like to recognize, and that would be advisors David Merson and Michael Spurgeon. So this is where we get all sentimental and give them gifts. And
I'll say a few words about Merson.
yeah, that sounds like we planned it almost.
Oh, you. Yeah, David Merson, I only had the first semester, but what's become clear this semester, especially, is as I've taken on a little more responsibility with the magazine, is that David Merson is our go-to guy for everything. He has consistently gone above and beyond for this magazine for the past 10 years, and he continues to, even this year, as we rely on him for help. So, sort of our slogan this year, if we didn't know anything, was just ask Merson. And, you know, it seemed that he got his energy and his ability to deal with all of us from coffee. So we thought it'd be appropriate. So. And it says ask Merson on it too.
So Professor Michael Spurgeon, I imagine, needs a little stronger of a drink to deal with us. So we bought him a flask. As was mentioned earlier, a certain staff member has a favorite catchphrase. And as Zach mentioned, you know, sometimes we're scared at first, but then we really enjoy it. And it's gotten to the point that even Spurgeon has started using this catchphrase. I don't know if he wants people knowing that, but it's too late now. So on his flask, it says 2010 ARR. That's what Spurgeon
to kind of chat and then slowly make your way out of here. Hopefully slowly, because we want to talk to all of you now that this is all over and we don't have to stress about it anymore. So yeah, there's still plenty of refreshments back there. We've got cake, and let's just hang out for a little while. Carrots. Carrots. All right.
Actually,
thank you.
before you go,
Yeah.
Before you go, I'd like to say thank you to a number of groups and people. Thanks to David and to Harold, who gave me a lot of assistance. Thanks to Craig for being a great partner in this process, particularly when Professor Betty Nelson had to take the rest of the semester off due to illness. Thanks to Betty Nelson for all of her guidance and help and goodwill. Really looking forward to her return. Thanks to all of the artists and writers. You all are great, and you make the magazine worth working for. And then thanks to the Art New Media staff for all the great work you did. It looks like it's a beautiful magazine. And then a very special thanks to the editorial staff. It's been a real pleasure working with all of you, and this is going to come in handy. In particular, I'd really like to thank Megan for all the work she has done. We've been feeling our way together a lot this semester. She's totally out of control. It's really been a lot of fun to work with the staff and to have a number of staff members who have really just risen to the challenge. There have been lots of moments when I have not known what we were doing, and they have helped me figure it out. And so I'm very grateful. And actually, if I could have the editorial staff come down real fast, I have some gifts for you. So come on down, editorial staff, just really quickly. Actually, no, stay up here for a second. If I could get if I could get Craig to come down and the art, maybe if I get the Art New Media staff to come down real fast. If I could get the Art New Media staff who's here to come down. And I'd just like to ask all of you to join me in congratulating you. Thanks a lot for coming.
Is that it?
It's been dropped.
Only a few more to go.
I loved your poem. It's just wonderful.
Thanks a lot.
Poetry goes.
Oh, thank you. Thanks. It means a lot. Thanks. It's like a baby. It's a big game. 118.
You did your best. It's not your fault.
He started that way.
You're inspired.
I know it. I am going.
I'm really warm. I've been sitting in with this super warm.
Yes, what? I'm here.
Yeah, what shooting?
We shot.
I know.